Hello, Pauper fans. It's Mathonical. Joining me for round 2 with Enchantment Control. Our opening hand looks great. Basically, we don't have a Pestilence, so we're just going to hope we're not against anything that goes wide right off the bat. But outside of that, we got some, basically some removal, some ramp, and the way to tutor out one of our Disrepairs. So I'm very happy keeping this one. Starting off the tap land, of course. Just to get that out of the way. And it looks like we're either against Elves or Stompy. Given the contents of our hand, I'd rather be playing against Stompy. So we're just gonna hope it's that. If they're getting with Aquarian Ranger, let's see. And we are against Stompy. Alright, so things are looking pretty good for us. We're just going to drop a Recumbent Bliss on the Nettle Sentinel because it's going to prevent some damage coming our way, and I don't think they have any way of removing that. So it should be safe for the rest of the game. Also, by dropping it on the biggest creature, if we do get the Pestilence at some point, we can always remove all these 1/1s and leave them with a 2/2 to keep our Pestilence around. Very happy having the Protective Sphere here. We're basically going to be able to use that to really reduce the amount of damage we're taking, especially against a Ledgewalker there. And because they played the Ledgewalker, I'm actually not going to play the Protective Sphere just yet. Instead, I'm going to play the Heliod's Pilgrim, get a Disrepair, drop it on the Fertile Ground. And the reason why I'm doing this is I want them to really pump up the Ledgewalker, thinking that we've got targeted removal. Sure enough, here comes a Rancor. Basically, I don't want them spreading around the damage as much as possible because I want to just lock down 1 or 2 creatures with a Protective Sphere. And I was hoping for the +3 counters. That didn't come out, so I'm just going to assume my opponent doesn't have it here. And we get the Protective Sphere down, and things are looking pretty good for us, since now we're basically turning all these 2 damage and 3 damage down into 1. I don't really agree with my opponent attacking with the Aquarian Ranger, but I don't know the contents of their hands, so can't say for certain whether that's a good play or not. It does allow them to get an extra damage in with the Young Wolf, so we'll see how that plays out. And yeah, basically that turn we took 4 damage, and we're going to gain 2 back, so currently we're -2 per turn, which isn't too bad. And whoa, there's also Recumbent Bliss, we're only -1. Things are looking pretty good. I do like to try and keep track of the parity number of how much damage we're taking per turn. And since we're just going to take out one of the Burning Tree Emissaries, we're going to take that over the Nettle Sentinel, because even though they have the Aquarian Ranger at this point, it's not guaranteed that Nettle Sentinel is always going to untap. And here we're just going to basically take 3 damage, and then we're going to gain 3 life, so this turn is a parity turn, looking pretty good. Of course, now the Young Wolf is going to be able to attack past our Heliod's Pilgrim, but I'm not too concerned, since we do have the Pestilence on hand, and this looks like a pretty great turn to just drop it. Our opponent doesn't have any cards in hand, and I guess my reasoning for not playing it there is I'm a little concerned, since, let's see, I do have 3. Yeah, I wouldn't have been able to wipe away all the 2 power creatures. And basically I wanted to make sure that I was taking less damage by using the Protective Sphere here. It just felt like a slightly safer play, since that allowed me to get down another Quiet Disrepair just to make sure we're gaining life. So here, now that we have 3 black mana sources up and ready, I'm just going to drop the Pestilence. And I don't mind letting them draw with 3 sources, but since I only have 2 there, I'm just going to go ahead and wipe the board. I don't want to give them the opportunity to have something. And I made sure to do it during my end step, just so that way they couldn't play a creature on their turn to buy us another turn afterwards, just to really draw the game out as much as possible. Our opponent does have some creatures and a Rancor. It is a little annoying that they dropped the Rancor on that spawn because, well, Protective Sphere doesn't play well with the spawn, but of course we were lucky enough to draw the Pestilence, and I don't mind just using it for 1 damage here. They don't have a way of removing their own creature, and we can just always turn that down into 1 damage. So basically our plan here is, I missed the opportunity to do 1 damage there. I'm trying to play as fast as possible to make sure that we're staying below their time. But essentially right now we just want to do 1 damage on our turn, 1 damage on their turn, as many times as we need to until we win. And our opponent sees that that is how we are going to win at some point, and they do concede there. Alright. Long and grindy, that's the way the deck plays. Let's jump into the next one. Basically, I do want the last Pestilence, and I feel like the Kruphix's Insight might be a little bit too slow. If I'm spinning my wheels with these, I'm probably taking too much damage. So what I'm going to do instead is basically bring in the Pestilence and bring in 2 Aura Gnarlids as a way of kind of just gumming up the ground. It was possible, I was considering bringing in some more of them, but since I'm still trying to figure things out with the deck, I decided to bring in 2 just to see how well that theory would work. And let's give it a try. Taking a look at our opening hand. 2 lands, and we do have a bunch of decent things, like we got the 2 Pestilence, we got the Hobble and Oblivion Ring. It's a little risky, but drawing a 3rd land means we get to remove 2 things and drop a Gnarlid, which should be able to lock up the ground, especially with the Hobble, because it'll be a 3/3. If they play Rancors, it'll also be pretty big. And the Pestilence clean it up. So while it's a bit slow, I feel like this hand does have winning chances, so I'm going to go ahead and keep it. No turn 1 play bodes really well for us. Our opponent also did need to mulligan down to 5, which is rather unfortunate for them, and does make our hand better, and since we drew the 3rd land, things are looking pretty good. The Ledgewalker does mean that we can't just straight up remove it, but we should be able to play around that okay. Here we've got quite a few options, and I decided to go with the Gnarlid. I basically want to test the waters to see if they have a pump spell when we drop the Pestilence or not. And here, what I want to do is get the fertile ground down, so that way we can play and activate Pestilence on the same turn. And I'm going to use the Oblivion Ring on the Rancor, just because that is a persistent source of damage that I don't have to worry about. Here, since they're attacking with the Nest Invader, I now know they have some pump spell. And since they didn't use it, I'm going to assume it's a Vines. So here I'm just going to drop the Pestilence. And unless anything crazy happens, I'm not really going to try and activate it. It looks like my opponent's going to go for a double Gleeful Sabotage. That does make sense, and I'm just going to try and use the Pestilence, and sure enough, they did have the Vines. So they get to keep both their creatures, they do get to remove some of our spells, our enchantments, but all in all, I feel like this is going pretty well for us. Hoping for a land. Oh, no land, that's alright. A Quiet Disrepair is just as good. This means we have 2 auras, so he or she can't attack with the Nest Invaders. And right now we're basically looking at taking 2 damage a turn and gaining 2 life a turn, so we've already hit parity and we're at a fairly stable life total. So I'm just going to go ahead and use Hobble on the Nest Invader. We just want to continue to draw additional cards here. There was an option to play another Quiet Disrepair, but I didn't really want to get really blown out by another Gleeful Sabotage, and I'd rather not lose 2 Quiet Disrepairs along with 2 other enchantments to a Gleeful Sabotage off the top. So here, since we have a mana open, and they've got 3 Ledgewalkers, it looks like a great turn to drop Pestilence, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. Our opponent can't block because their creature is big enough, and basically we're just going to swing in for the win with the Gnarlid. So Pestilence plus a bunch of enchantments did end up manage to take down Stompy. Of course, our opponent did have some pretty bad luck needing to mulligan down to 5, but we did manage to get there. Alright, 2-0. I will see you guys in round 3.